Warning: the following story is true. However, it will be up to each one of us, each one of you, who, after listening to the story, will decide whether it is real or fictional. Join me in this new episode. I am El DoQmentalista, and this is The Nest of the Gargoyles. Four young people arrived at the mountainous area known as the Pennines in the north of England, with the promise of finding some mysterious, little-explored caves and having one more adventure to add to their repertoire. The four travelers were William Jones, Jacob Evans, Harry Walsh, and Oliver Taylor, all friends and experienced in the field of speleology. Cave exploration had always been one of William's deepest interests, and on that occasion they would visit the mysterious Stone Lake Caves. The excitement was even greater because these caves were hard to find and, even more so, difficult to explore. There are several stories about these caves which say that they are inhabited by animals still unknown to man, as if it were a kind of place frozen in time. However, this is normal. Many new species of animals have been discovered during the exploration of caves or similar places. So it was not surprising that stories were created about this place, about mysterious beings or animals that lived in the caves. However, William and his companions had no idea what awaited them inside that place. William tells how a local guide led them to a trail on a mountain. From there, William and his companions continued alone to the top, where they were supposedly supposed to find the entrance to the caves. Now, you're probably wondering why we're only talking about William. You'll see. The thing is, the others don't matter. And they don't matter because, simply put, that day when they entered the Stone Lake Caves, the rest of their companions never came out again. It was right at noon when the four adventurers found the entrance to the Stone Lake Caves. Everything was going wonderfully. The kids were getting ready to enter the caves, and once they were set with their safety gear, flashlights, and cameras, they began to descend. The darkness, the humidity, the stifling atmosphere, and the slight feeling of claustrophobia were things that simply fascinated them. Little by little, they moved forward chamber by chamber, making their way through narrow spaces between the floor and a ceiling weighing thousands of tons above them. Until, unfortunately, they reached a rather spacious chamber where they rested and made themselves comfortable. And after inspecting the different opportunities to move forward, they found an old piece of blanket. Apparently, it was an old shirt, torn and eaten away by mold. It must have been there for a long time, judging by its appearance, says William. However, that wasn't what caught their attention the most. Actually, it was the sign that was written in blood or red ink. The sign said, "Do not enter. Death is behind these rocks. Turn back and do not return." Who the hell had written that message? Was it a joke? Someone had been there before, and without a doubt, they didn't want them to keep going. But come on, four enthusiastic young people looking like cowards. That would never happen. Between fears and indecision, they removed the blanket from the place and began to take away the rocks that hid a small entrance to a new passageway. Of course, everyone went in. Those cracks weren't normal. They felt like a kind of path that, the further they went, the more they split into each other. A network of underground tunnels that would lead them to death, a hellish labyrinth from which not everyone would escape. Jacob and Harry stayed behind. We had agreed that in case anything happened, we would meet in the room where we found the sign. Oliver and I thought they had come back, but we weren't sure because the radios weren't working. In the darkness and the small LED lights on their helmets, two adventurers made their way until they finally managed to hear something very familiar. Water. A splash inside that place coming from an underground river that surely flowed into the lake of the nearest town. Both companions got excited. An event like that indicated new routes or exits to the surface. So they quickened their pace and shouted to their companions who had fallen behind in case they were nearby. Unfortunately for them, it was a large pit, apparently bottomless, very deep, where water was indeed falling. But they couldn't see the outlet that disappeared into the darkness. They tried with ropes, but even together they couldn't reach the bottom of that abyss. Williams made the decision. They would return to the chamber for their other two companions and try to go down again. However, that return would only turn into a regrettable and terrifying event. When William and Oliver returned to the sign chamber, they found a disturbing scene. That place was filled with blood everywhere. Parts of their companions' bodies lay torn apart all over the place. It had been a gruesome massacre. William filmed everything that happened. The cameras of his dead companions would also keep the evidence of what had happened to them. They immediately began searching the ground for helmets and recording equipment. They found them, looked at them, and what they saw seemed like something straight out of hell. They were a kind of gray birds that camouflaged themselves among the walls of the place. They stuck to the walls and seemed to disappear right there, as if they were merging with the rocks. They were like birds, huge bats. They were gargoyles. William and his companion were terrified. They couldn't believe that was happening. They quickly grabbed their equipment and the evidence from the place and started to escape. Like possessed souls, they tried to get back to the surface. The adrenaline and fear made everything more confusing, and getting back was something desperate. Even though they couldn't see anything, they felt chased. They heard beastly screams from those bloodthirsty animals. They were running out of oxygen, and exhaustion was playing tricks on them. Oliver was caught by the beasts. William says he could see how his friend was dragged and devoured from the feet up. Oliver's last words were, "Go, get out of here, leave, Will, run." Crawling, William had almost reached the entrance. However, those winged, clawed creatures were about to catch up with him. In fact, they almost did for a few moments. William Jones was found asking for help in a nearby village covered in blood, dying, almost out of strength, with his fingers and nails worn down. That day, William escaped from the clutches of those beasts that he described as gargoyles. There were claw marks on his skin, his back and his feet were wounded, everywhere. Helmet and cameras were left behind on the way. There was no evidence of the story William told the authorities. However, William is still in rehabilitation. The tendons in his feet have been damaged, but he is recovering, and he has sworn to return. For the evidence and for those demonic beasts that took his friends from him. If you want to know more about this story, go to the news page, British Broadcasting Corporation Company, United Kingdom, News England. And you, what do you think? Do you think there are still unknown animals underground or in caves nowadays? Do you think they'll be able to recover the footage from the cameras? If you like the video, share it. It's very important that you do it so we can reach more people. I'm El DoQmentalista, and this was the Gargoyle's Nest. Thank you and see you next time.